Welcome in, everybody. Happy Monday. Oh, thank you, Possum. Hi, AMG. Welcome in, everybody. Oh, thank you, Town Car. Welcome in, everybody. Happy Monday. Feel free to write your story requests in all capital letters in the chat, and I'll write them down, and then we can vote. Also, if you guys could do me a big favor and hit that share arrow in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little yellow circle with two arrows chasing each other that says repost, and that puts my live into your friends' FYPs, and it helps us grow this beautiful porch of ours. Also, sharing to your stories and sharing with your friends helps too. Happy Monday. Oh, welcome in, Dumpster. Welcome to the porch. We're glad to have you here. Welcome in, everybody. My name's Devin, and this is Porch Lore, and I tell spooky bedtime stories to help you relax your nervous system and fall asleep. And I'm here every single night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until about 1 in the morning. I do write and record all these stories myself, and you can listen to them whenever you would like on my YT channel, as well as all of the podcast streaming sites. Just look for Porch Lore and you will find me. If you guys could do me a big favor, I'm going to set up the first poll with your story requests. And if you guys could hit that share arrow in the bottom right-hand corner. Oh, thank you, Mamasaurus. That's so cute. There's a little yellow circle with 2 arrows chasing each other that says repost. That puts the live into your friends' FYPs and it helps us grow our beautiful porch. Also, sharing in your stories and sharing with your friends helps too. And thank you to everybody tapping the screen. It is free. And once we hit 10K, we do get shared out. So I will be right back with the poll. Feel free to keep writing your requests in the chat if you have them in all capital letters. Happy Monday. Okay, guys, the first poll is ready. We have the Snallygaster. Oh, wait, there we go. We have the Snallygaster, the Hitchhiker, Water Babies, the Bell Witch, and the Dog Man. You can vote in the top left-hand corner. There is a blue box. And hi, Paula. And you can vote up to 50 times. And you can vote for more than one story. Oh, Don sent some corn. Who's it going to be, guys? We have the Snallygaster. We have the Hitchhiker. We have the Water Babies. We have the Bell Witch and Dog Man. Mamasaurus, thank you for joining the Discord. And Angel, don't worry about it. You don't have to vote at all. Just sit back and relax. Hang out. Don't even worry about it at all. And Justin and Rachel are kind souls. And sometimes, if you guys ask in the chat, will you vote for me for this story? If you have one you specifically would like, they'll do it for you. Because the porch pals are pretty amazing. Kalani, we start after the poll is done. People are in the middle of voting for which story I read. I'm so glad that I can help with that, Learn. Happily rude, Mom, you're so cute. You know, a couple porch pals have done that. And I'm honored. I'm glad I can help you guys and be a helpful part of your life. Your nervous system hasn't been the same. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I've told you. That's why I am a siren. And that's why I always say I am here to relax your nervous system. I don't just say I'm here to tell stories, because that is exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm a healer, and I'm doing what I know, the best way I know how, to try to help other people. Oh, hi, Scarlett. It took me a long time to find what I think was meant for me, and I do think this is it. So thank you so much. It means more than you know, because I literally quit my entire career to pursue this. So thanks, Happily Rude Mom. Thank you, Tamara. Yes, I am, for sure. And it's nice to actually be able to help people. That's all I've ever pretty much wanted my entire life. So it's crazy that it fell into my lap this way. And sometimes I like cry about it, because like I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to try not to, but I'm so incredibly grateful. Kathy, right? The music, yeah. I put a lot of effort and research into the whole package of Porch Lore to make it that way for you guys. But I mean, it didn't start out like that. Those of you who have been here since the beginning, it's been a growing experience too. Oh no, Stace, the Daily Heart me's like 1 cent or something like that. But you don't have to worry about it. If you can't do it right now, that's totally fine. Just being here, tapping, watch time. Watch time tells TikTok that you guys love being here. And there's all kinds of ways to help the live without spending money if you can't. Yeah, Mamasaurus. And that's exactly it. Is I grew up listening to scary stories too. And I felt like there was a need for being an adult sucks. And I am in a rare position where I am an adult without children. And so I have really held on to my inner child quite a bit, because I didn't have to become someone else's mom. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's a different dynamic for me. And so I noticed all of my friends that had kids, who are my whole heart and soul. My friends are like my family, basically. I noticed that they were really anxious. They had lost sight of the girls that I knew they were back in the day. And same with my guy friends. One of my best guy friends, he was like, and I was like, you know what? All of us loved Are You Afraid of the Dark? All of us loved Goosebumps and So Weird. And like everything now is for adults is like, it's either horrifying or depressing, right? Like there's not even a lot of comedy out there anymore. I've noticed that like just a lot of entertainment is kind of like horrifying or depressing. So I was like, you know, we could just do spooky. Like, what if we just went back to like Are You Afraid of the Dark style scary, where it's not really scary, it's just it itches that spot in your brain that takes you back to when you were watching Snick and things weren't so bleak. That's so cool, Mamasaurus. I would love to hear those stories. Yeah, eerie instead of gore. Exactly, Shock. I like, plus there's enough stuff in the world, like enough things that are reported and enough cool phenomenon and unexplained things that we don't need to focus on how horrible humans can be to each other. I do occasionally write the human stories for you guys because I know you like them, but my goal is to take your mind off of that for the most part and go back to wonder and whimsy of like, oh my God, could the Mothman be real? My God, look how cute that chupacabra is. What if I saw one of those? How cute would that be? You know, my goal is to get you guys to go back to wonder and imagination. And that there's a special kind of like, I don't know, that comes from wonder, you know, that comes from thinking that things might still be possible. And once you become an adult, you kind of, I'm surprised how many people are convinced like we've found everything, we've discovered everything, we've done this. I'm like, no, I need to remind you guys that there's still a lot of magic in the world, including this siren that helps you guys fall asleep. Do, 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 do. All right, so the winner is the Dog Man of Michigan. I wish Ange was here. She's in this story. Oh, thank you for being a caregiver, Tiny Trait. That's so incredibly difficult. And yes, the new story, thank you to everybody who came to the premiere tonight at 7 on YT. And if you missed it, don't worry, I will be reading it. I usually read the new story at midnight or a little after. So don't worry, I will be reading it. And then after today, it goes into the list of ones you guys can request. All right, I'll be right back with the Dog Man. Happy Monday. Hi, Kim. Oh, that's okay, boo-boo. Thank you, Cassie. Possum Papa. What did I call you? What did I say? What did I say? I don't think I called you either, did I? Because I don't really have any indication. I just have Possum the cat, which is your cat's name, right? Your Torty. Me too, Stace. I love the old Twilight Zone and Alfred Hitchcock hour. So good. Hi, Carrie. Hi, Goat Man. I do watch movies. Everybody, the Goat Man's here. The goat, the myth, the legend. haven't seen it, Goatman. Oh, thank you, Jess. Thank you, Rabbit Hole. Thank you, Shock. Thank you, Kim. Thanks, Seabass. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Devin, and this is Porch Lore. And I tell spooky bedtime stories to help you relax your nervous system and fall asleep. And I'm here every single night from 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until about 1 in the morning. I do write and record all of these stories myself, and you can listen to them whenever you would like on my YT channel, as well as all of the podcast streaming sites. Just look for Porch Lore and you will find me. Happy Monday, sit back and relax, and I'll be right back with the tale of the Dog Man. Oh, Goat Man. Tiny Trace, I love when you guys come and say hi. The people who aren't talkers, it makes me so happy when you pop in and say hello. Thank you so much. And you don't have to chat with us. I understand introverts. I just love when you guys pop in and say hi really quick. And I appreciate you too. Thank you so much. Because we do have like the same little group of people that chat every night, but then there's literally like 480 others that don't really say much, and I love it when you guys say hi. Aw, Slim, I'm here. We are your family. You're not an orphan. I'm so glad you're here with us. Oh, hi, Coco. Welcome in from Scotland. I love Scotland. My ancestors are from there. And the new story tonight is based off of Scottish lore. Not the one I'm reading right now, but the new one I'll read at midnight. Or that would be 5 in the morning for you. So I don't know if you'll still be here, but. Submitted for the approval of the Porch Pal Society. Thank you, Stace. This is the tale. Aw, thank you, Blue Fire. This is the tale of the Dog Man from Michigan. Hi, Mads. Welcome in from Denmark. How cool. Hi, Angelfish. Hi, Joe. As someone who has spent years researching paranormal and supernatural stories and traditions, I've learned that legends tend to survive for a reason. Sometimes the reason is cultural, sometimes historical, and sometimes psychological. And every once in a while, the reason is because something actually happened to someone. whether they understood it or not. This summer, I decided to drive up to Michigan to spend a long weekend with my friend Ange. Look back at it. Ange and I met on TikTok through our mutual interest in folklore and the unexplained. She lived in Michigan all her life, and she knew the state's forests far better than I did. She also knew exactly how to get me interested in a road trip. A couple weeks before, she had sent me a message containing nothing more than a photograph. The image showed an old newspaper clipping. The headline read, "Local hunter reports encounter with upright canine." The article itself was from the 1960s. Ange had found it while researching Michigan folklore to help me with story ideas. Then a few days later, she uncovered 2 more reports. Different decades, different witnesses, nearly identical descriptions. A large animal, dark fur, wolf-like head, seen standing upright. All of them occurred within roughly 30 miles of one another. Most people are familiar with the Michigan Dogman because of the famous radio song that popularized the legend in the late 1980s. But what interested me was everything that came before. The older reports. The ones recorded before the creature was ingrained in Michigan folklore. Because witnesses from the 1930s, 1950s, and 1960s couldn't have been influenced by a modern legend they'd never heard. Yet, they all described remarkably similar encounters. And that was enough to get my attention. The plan was simple. I'd spend a week with Ange roaming around the mitten. We'd film some material for some porch lore content, visit a few historical locations, talk to locals, and get some local oral history and folklore recorded. Thank you, Faye Reed. Thank you, Rachel. Thanks, Angelfish. Thanks, Mamasaurus. But neither of us expected to become part of the story ourselves. Thank you, Shock. I drove up to Grand Rapids on a Thursday afternoon. Ange was meeting me there so we could follow each other to the first hotel. Ange had already prepared an itinerary, 3 historical locations connected to the early Dogman reports, 2 interviews with local residents, and a rental cabin near the edge of a heavily forested area where multiple sightings had supposedly occurred. During the drive north, we talked almost nonstop, which I love. We discussed how many of the sightings clustered around old logging communities. By Friday morning, we were driving toward the first location. Hi, CJ. An abandoned logging settlement that had been reclaimed by the forest decades earlier. Very little remained. A few stone foundations, pieces of rusted equipment, scattered evidence that people had once lived and worked there. The woods surrounding the site were beautiful, not ominous, not creepy, just dense. Hi, Rochelle. Towering white pines rose above the trail, while ferns covered much of the ground. We spent several hours filming, taking photographs and discussing the historical reports. And nothing unusual happened. The second location was similar. Again, nothing strange happened. By late afternoon, we had accumulated plenty of footage of the area, but very little mystery. Then we met the old man. His name was Harold. He lived alone on a property bordering several thousand acres of forest. Ange had arranged for us to have a brief interview with him. Harold was in his 80s, sharp-minded and super friendly. The kind of person who immediately feels trustworthy because he doesn't seem interested in impressing anybody. When we mentioned the dog man, he chuckled, but not dismissively, almost fondly, like someone remembering an old family story. According to him, people in the area had been reporting strange encounters for generations. Hi, Melly. But the details changed depending on the decade. Sometimes witnesses described a creature covered in hair. Sometimes a man. Sometimes a giant wolf. So eventually, the dog man became the preferred explanation. Then he told us about an old fire tower deep in the forest, long abandoned. Years earlier, several hunters had reported unusual activity. Missing equipment, footprints, strange observations, nothing dramatic. Just enough incidents to make people uncomfortable. So, the next morning, we set out to find it. The hike took nearly 3 hours. Most of the route followed old service roads that hadn't been maintained in years. Thank you, Jess. It was a rough hike. Trees had begun reclaiming large portions of the path. Several times we had to climb over fallen trunks. The farther we traveled, the less evidence we saw of any recent visitors. The fresh tracks, no litter, no campsites, nothing. Thank you, that's so funny, Mamasaurus. Eventually, the tower appeared through the trees. It stood above the forest canopy like a rusted skeleton, much older looking than I had expected. Several support beams showed obvious signs of corrosion. The stairs remained intact, but they looked questionable. Ange took one look at them and announced that she wasn't climbing that thing. And I'm scared of heights, so there was no way I was going up that rickety old thing. We spent nearly an hour filming around the structure, and then again, nothing unusual happened. Goat man. Except the fact that one of my backpack straps broke, and I had to try to shove as much as I could into my crossbody bag. I left my backpack at the tower. I would just grab it on our walk back to the car later. Then Ange found footprints. Roughly human shape, but different. We both photographed it, and then we saw a trail of prints that led away from the tower into the woods. I remember feeling excited, not frightened, because evidence meant an investigation, and an investigation meant answers. So we followed the tracks. Hi, Mothman. Look, you guys, we have Goatman and Mothman here at the same time. Hi. The tracks continued for almost half a mile, sometimes visible, sometimes disappearing. We continued deeper into what seemed like a forest of endless trees. And then we finally found a clearing. The center contained a structure. Not a building, not a cabin. A platform constructed from logs, weathered by age. It looked decades old, perhaps older. Neither of us understood why it was there. Then we noticed what surrounded it. Objects, hundreds of them. Rusted lanterns, tools, buttons, pieces of camping gear, old bottles, a broken compass, a hunting knife, scattered items from different decades. Good night, CJ. We miss you. Some seemed to be very old, and others looked relatively modern. Thank you, Chris. Welcome in. Thank you for helping me with my gallery. Thank you so much, Chris. It didn't look like a campsite. It looked like a collection. People didn't accidentally leave all of this behind in that same area. Someone or something had gathered this stuff for years. And then my jaw dropped as I noticed my backpack. The one I had left near the tower like 40 minutes earlier. It sat atop the platform with its broken strap, perfectly centered. Neither of us moved. Good night, Suzanne. So let's get this straight. While we were following the tracks, something had reached the tower after we left, taken my backpack, and then beat us back there half a mile through the woods and placed it there deliberately without us noticing? Okay. And grabbed my arm and said we needed to keep moving, and I agreed. Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much. Around sunset, we stopped at a clearing overlooking a marsh. The location was beautiful. Golden light reflected across the water. Dragonflies skimmed the surface. The air had finally begun to cool down. And then Ange suddenly froze. I followed her gaze across the marsh, and perhaps 200 yards away, something moved between the trees. At first, I thought it was a bear. Michigan does have black bears. Yes, Mothman's in here, and so is Goatman. And that would have been a perfectly reasonable explanation, but then the animal stood up. Not reared like bears tend to do. It stood like a person rising from a chair. The creature remained partially obscured by vegetation. But I could clearly see the silhouette, and it was tall. Massive shoulders, elongated head. It stayed motionless for several seconds, watching us. Justin. The distance made details hard to make out. But every instinct in my body reacted immediately that it was a predator. Then it turned and walked behind a stand of trees and vanished. Ange lowered her binoculars and neither of us spoke. We just stared at each other with our mouths open in awe. We left shortly after, and the hike back to the car was terrifying. The sun was setting fast, and we kept seeing shapes between the trees. We think it followed us all the way back to the tower and all the way back to the trailhead, but always just out of sight. I don't know what we encountered in those woods. Maybe it was a dogman. Maybe it was something else entirely. But I can't stop thinking about the collection we found. The hidden platform, the decades of objects gathered in the forest. Because that suggests intelligence, curiosity. Not some random animal, not some mindless predator. Something that watched people, something that learned about them, something that kept pieces of them. something that has been studying humans for a very long time. And that's the tale of the Dog Man of Michigan. There you go, Scarlett. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Devin, and this is Porch Lore. And I tell spooky bedtime stories to help you relax your nervous system and fall asleep. And I'm here every single night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until about 1 in the morning. I do write and record all of these stories myself, and you can listen to them whenever you would like on my YT channel, as well as all of the podcast streaming sites. Hi, Dawn. And if you guys would do me a big favor while I set up the next poll for us to vote, could you hit that share arrow in the bottom right-hand corner? There's a little yellow circle that says repost, and that puts my live into your friends' FYPs, and it helps us grow this beautiful porch of ours. You can also share to your stories, and you can share with your friends. Oh, perfect, Natalie. Reposting is the same thing, yeah. And thank you for all the tapping. And grab a beanbag chair, grab a hammock. Oh, really, Deborah? Yeah. Sit back and relax. And welcome to the porch. Happy Monday. I will be right back with the next poll. Scarlett. Scarlett changed her screen name to Inadequate Flashlights. That's so funny. I love it, Scarlett. You're the best. Hi, Holly. We love you. Hope you're having a good day. All right, you guys, the next poll is ready. We have Booger Hollow, Paint Blue. You have an inadequate footprint. No, I saw your footprints, Goatman. I I pinned a couple of your comments about how your footprint people just think it's a goat. Yeah, Kim, Scarlett changed her name. Don't be sorry. I love it. It's the cutest thing. It's so funny. I love it. All right, you guys, the poll is Booger Hollow, Hank Blue, the Water Babies, the Maintenance Man, and the Black Dog of Hanging Hills. You can vote in the top left-hand corner. There is a blue box, and you can vote up to 50 times, and you can vote for more than one story. Hi, Carrie. And if you're over on YT and you'd like to vote, let us know which one you'd like. Dependent comment doesn't even do me justice. Which comment? Thank you, Taryn. Welcome in. I did say pinned, didn't I? I said pinned. I said, didn't I pin your comment? I did pin your comment. Yeah, if it's too long, you just have to hit the little arrow. I know it's hard for you to understand because you're a goat, but it doesn't show the whole thing and you just have to hit the little arrow and it shows the rest. Oh my God, you changed your picture too, Scarlett. She changed her picture to the worst flashlight she knows. Yeah, goat man, but you know what's really annoying? Even without hooves, when I try to hit that little arrow to expand the comment, half the time it doesn't even work. And it's like you just have to hit it just right because it's such a tiny arrow. So it's pretty annoying, but it does show the whole comment. It just, for some reason, cuts part of it off and you have to hit expand. Like, you know how streaming shows, they give just a little taste of the description, then you have to hit more? That's basically the same shit. I learn something new every day too, and I love it. Now she's taken over the personality of the flashlight. She said, I am a kind troll. I will only disappoint you for buying me. And the winner is the Black Dog of Hanging Hills. Hi, Star. Hi, Michelle. And if you're new here, welcome in. My name is Devin, and this is Porch Lore. And I tell spooky bedtime stories to help you. Oh, cool. Thanks. Thank you, Star. I tell spooky bedtime stories to help you relax your nervous system and fall asleep. And I'm here every single night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until about 1 in the morning. Oh, Your Royal Highness. I'm so glad. Yay. I'm so glad I could help you sleep. All right, guys. So I'm going to pull up the Black Dog of Hanging Hills and grab a beanbag chair, grab a hammock, sit back and relax, check out the shooting stars, and welcome to the porch. Happy Monday. And while I'm doing this, if you guys could do me a big favor, and if you could hit that share arrow in the bottom right-hand corner, there is a little yellow circle with 2 arrows chasing each other that says repost. That puts the live into your friends' FYPs, and it helps us grow our beautiful porch. Also, sharing to your stories, which is like the circle with the little twinkle in it, helps too. And sharing with your friends. And thank you to everybody tapping the screen. It's free and it helps more than you realize. And I will be right back with the next story. And the new story will be read at midnight. Don't worry, you didn't miss it. Be right back. Natalie, if you swipe out and come back in, it usually reappears. It's the stupidest thing, but if you've been in a live for a while, it like goes away and I have no idea why. But whenever I leave a live and come back in, the share to story button shows back up. Hi, Vampire Helly. How you doing, cutie? Gabriel, I don't read the new story till midnight though. Your Royal Highness, I am also streaming on YT at the same time. Megan, thank you. Oh my gosh, thanks, Megan. So if you I believe you can watch YT on your television. So just a thought. Hi, Daza. Submitted for the approval of the Porch Pal Society. This is the tale of the Black Dog of Hanging Hills. Sweet dreams, Megan. You're the best. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Scream Queen. Thank you, Nate. Yes, Squeaks. And thank you, Scream Queen. Thank you, LT. I had heard of Hanging Hills of Connecticut long before I ever set foot among their strange basalt cliffs. There is a starkness to the way the ridges rise from the landscape. Jagged black stone carved by ancient lava flows and glaciers, layered like broken teeth jutting skyward. Travelers once wrote of the place in almost reverent tones, describing it as both beautiful and oppressive. Hi, Brain Eater, welcome back. It was in those same ridges that people whispered about something darker. A black dog that appeared without warning, silent and watchful, pacing travelers along cliff edges and forest trails. I had read enough to know this was no ordinary ghost story. The people of Meriden had a saying, one carried for more than a century. To see the black dog once was good luck. To see it twice meant misfortune. But to see it a third time meant death. Hi, Sam. It was not said with a wink or a storyteller's flourish. It was spoken like a warning, heavy with belief. Some accounts called it an omen, others a spectral beast. In 1891, a respected geologist named W.H.C. Pichon even wrote of his own encounter in the Connecticut Quarterly. He described walking those very ridges and being joined by the black dog, a creature with coal dark fur, no sound of footsteps, and eyes that reflected no light. He admitted he felt no fear, at least not then. But Pichon would later return to those cliffs and not come back alive. His colleagues wrote that he fell to his death from West Peak, and many locals muttered that the black dog had been seen with him for his final time. Right, Star? And that was enough to fix Hanging Hills in my imagination. So one winter, when the skies were gray and the ground still hard with ice, I drove to Meriden to see the cliffs for myself. The day began uneventfully. I parked near Hubbard Park, where a frozen pond reflected the ridges like a broken mirror. I followed the trails that cut steeply upward past bare trees rattling in the wind. The basalt underfoot was slick with patches of snow, and I could hear my own breath echoing in the stillness. The higher I climbed, the more the world below seemed to fall away, leaving me alone with stone, ice, and sky. It was on the narrowest part of the ridge that I first noticed it. A shape. When I turned, I saw a dog, small and coal black, standing just ahead of me on the trail. Its fur was so dark it seemed to swallow the pale light of the moon. The strangest part was the silence. No crunch of paws on snow, no sound of breathing. The dog did not approach, nor did it retreat. It simply trotted a few paces ahead and then stopped back to look at me to see if I would follow. I should have felt fear, but instead, I felt a strange calm, as though the presence of the animal was expected. So I followed it up the trail. Whenever I slowed down a bit, it would slow. When I pressed on, it would match my pace. Thank you, songbird. It led me higher to where the cliff opened into a rocky overlook above the valley. And that was where the storm struck. It came on suddenly, rolling over the ridge like a living wall. The wind rose with a shriek, lashing through the skeletal trees, and snow fell in a blinding curtain, erasing the trail, the valley, even the horizon. I wrapped my coat tight and I pulled my scarf over my mouth, but the cold was merciless, cutting into me like blades. The black dog remained. It stood at the cliff's edge, tail lifted, body rigid against the gale. It didn't flinch when the wind howled, nor when the thunder cracked like a cannon. It merely turned its head as if it was signaling for me to follow again. With the storm closing in, I had little choice, so I pressed forward, my boots slipping on the ice, until I reached the dog's side. From there, I saw a narrow path that I hadn't noticed before, dropping sharply down into the rocks. The animal bounded ahead, silent as ever, while I stumbled after it, half blinded by snow. The path twisted until we reached the mouth of the cave. I had not read anything about caves in Hanging Hills. But there it was, a jagged opening in the basalt, dark as a wound in the earth. The dog slipped inside without hesitation. I hesitated only a moment before ducking in myself. Inside, the storm faded into a muffled roar. The air smelled of damp stone and something older. I pulled out my inadequate flashlight and I swept its beam across the walls. Basalt glittered with veins of quartz, wet with condensation. The floor was uneven, littered with broken rock. And then I saw them. Scratches, hundreds of them gouged deep into the stone. Some were claw marks, long and curved, higher than any dog could reach, and others looked almost like symbols. My light trembled in my hand as I turned in a slow circle. The black dog stood a few feet away watching me. Its gaze was unblinking. The cave felt alive. And then I heard a sound. Not the dog, but something deeper in the cave. A low, resonant growl so deep it vibrated my chest. The dog moved and stepped closer to me and sat at my feet, its black fur brushing against my boots. I felt no weight, no warmth. It was as if the creature were made of shadow. The noises in the cave swelled into something inhuman and terrifying. My inadequate flashlight flickered, and in that moment I saw shapes moving along the cave walls. Huge, twisted, crawling, limbed things. I wanted to run, but the dog wouldn't move. It sat there like a sentinel, unyielding. The storm outside gave a sudden ear-splitting crack of thunder, and the cave shook violently, and snow blasted into the entrance, scattering ice crystals like glass. Thank you, 5-star. The dog rose then, barking soundlessly and leaping into the whiteout. I ran after it, and the cold hit me like a hammer, but I didn't stop. I stumbled down the slope, blinded by snow, guided only by the flicker of black fur ahead of me. The storm howled in my ears, drowning out every other sound, until at last I burst from the ridge into the shelter of the lower woods. And just like that, the dog was gone. I searched, calling into the storm, but nothing. The snow fell softer here, muffled into a world of silence. My inadequate flashlight revealed only trees, rocks, and the faint trace of my own footprints. I made it back to my car long after night had fallen, shaking so hard I could barely fit the key in the ignition. I never told anyone the full truth of what I saw in that cave. I only said that the storm had caught me off guard and unprepared. But when I read again about Paishan and the others who died on those cliffs, I wondered. I have now seen the black dog once. I cannot say if it was an omen of good luck or of something darker, but I know this. If it appears to me again, I will not follow it a second time. And that's the tale of the black dog of Hanging Hills. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Devin, and this is Porch Lore, and I tell spooky bedtime stories to help you relax your nervous system and fall asleep. And I'm here every single night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until about 1 in the morning. I do write and record all of these stories myself, and you can listen to them whenever you would like on my YT channel, as well as all of the podcast streaming sites. Just look for Porch Lore and you will find me. Also, all the links are in my bio. And yes, Rochelle, he was protecting me. But they say the myth is if you see him once, it's good luck. If you see him twice, it's bad luck. If you see him a third time, you die. So that's why I was like, if I see him again, I'm not following the second time. Because the second time is supposed to be bad luck. Right? Can I pet that dog? Lines you forget. You know what? Everybody says that. That's funny. Kim says you cannot pet that dog. All right, you guys, welcome in. I'm going to set up the next poll for us to vote for the next story. And if you guys could do me a big favor while I'm doing that, if you could hit that share arrow in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a yellow circle with 2 arrows chasing each other. And that says repost. And that puts the live into your friends' FYPs. And it helps us grow our beautiful porch. Also, sharing to your stories and sharing with your friends helps too. And thank you to everybody tapping tonight. I greatly appreciate it. And I will be right back with the next poll. Happy Monday. Oh, Kim, I do have the thing. I didn't see the little arrow that says contributions to live. I have it. I do have it. Yay. You were right, girl. I just when you have shelf blindness, I'm so used to looking at the box. I just looked right over it. And it's very little when it's not expanded. And I didn't even notice it this whole time. By the way, Goat Man, Inadequate Flashlight is Scarlet. She just changed her name to pretend like she's being a little troll. But that's just Scarlet. Don't let her mess with you. Yeah, it's literally Scarlet. She just changed her name 5 minutes ago. She said you weren't supposed to tell him. I couldn't help it. It's so funny that you changed your name to Inadequate Flashlights with an S. Oh, see, look, and Scarlet does the 2 account trick. See? She's doing the 2 account trick. It ain't me. What? Is that me? Girl, you're so funny. The Inadequate Flashlight is Scarlet on her other account. She just changed the name of her other account. If you click on it, it literally says Scarlet. Isn't that funny, Brooke? Yeah. She said, ain't that girl? It's Scarlet, the friend that goes, I don't know, Omar. Why don't fish do well in school? All right, you guys, the next pull is ready. And we have the White Witch of Rose Hall. We have, oh, thank you guys. We have the, thank you, Brain Eater. We have the White Witch of Rose Hall. We have the Playground. We have the Last American Vampire. We have the Deer Woman, and we have the Salem Time Slip. And you can vote in the top left-hand corner. There is a blue box. You can vote up to 50 times, and you can vote for more than one story. Good job, Gabriel. Oh my God, Megan, I love that cat. Who's it gonna be, guys? Yes, KB. She sure is, and that story is based in Oklahoma. I'd tell folklore from all over the world. Okay, Dazza, then you need to email me some Bulgarian folklore. I'd love that. Send me some cool Bulgarian stories. Are you going live after me tonight, Dazza? What has 5 toes but isn't your foot? I don't know. What? Guys, follow Screen Queen. We're gonna raid his live after mine tonight. Thanks, Mike. Welcome. Oceana. I don't have any from Oceana yet, but I would love to. Yes, guys, follow Screen Queen. He's pinned right there. We're doing a porch raid after my live. All right, guys, the winner of the poll is the Deer Woman of Oklahoma. So grab a beanbag chair, grab a hammock, sit back and relax, and welcome to the porch. If you're new here, my name is Devin, and I tell spooky bedtime stories to help you relax your nervous system and fall asleep better. Feel free to hit that share arrow and the repost button, share your stories, share with your friends, all the good things. And I will be right back with the tale of the Deer Woman. Bill, thank you for your first gift ever. I'm honored. Thanks. Thank you, Millie. All right, guys, I'll be right back. Exactly, Gabriel. And to be honest with you, most elementals are not a threat if you're not a shithead. Most elementals are nature's balancers. They balance the scales of justice, basically. It's vibration matching, karma, whatever you want to call it. So, yeah. It's like when people believe in karma or whatever, like they call it different things around the world, but it's still the same idea that if you're not a shithead, they won't come for you. Scarlet, you did? What did it say? What did it say? You got restricted? Girl, you're acting a fool in my life. For bullying? See, girl, stop that. Hi, Boone. No, I do the new story at midnight. It'll be after this one. All right, guys. Be right back with the Dear Woman. Gabriel and Pusa's like that too. The Bell Witch story. I know, right, Goat Man? You should ask her out. Goatman said, look at those hooves. What a sight. Row. I don't think goats make that noise, but whatever. Thank you, Crown Royal. I loved you in high school. Hi, Brooksy. Thanks for the cow napping. Submitted for the approval of the Porch Pal Society. This is the tale of the Dear Woman of Oklahoma. Me too, Veil. It's so cute. Most people who talk about the Dear Woman online reduce her to a metaphor. They frame her like some elegant morality tale, an avenging spirit, a cautionary fable, a beautiful supernatural punisher of wicked men. But the older stories I heard in Oklahoma did not sound like a metaphor. The old stories there begin with warnings. Warnings spoken by grandmothers while shelling beans on porches. Warnings murmured by uncles over campfires. Warnings folded into bedtime stories and tribal teachings. Old superstitions that nobody openly admits they still believe. The Dear Woman was never simply a monster. She was a consequence. Among native nations such as the Cherokee, Creek, Seminole, Osage, and Lakota, and many others whose histories stretch through Oklahoma, long before it was Oklahoma. Stories of the deer woman vary, but the bones of the tale remain the same. She appears as a beautiful woman alone in the woods or by the roadside. Sometimes she's dancing. Sometimes she's crying. Sometimes she's asking for help. And sometimes she's luring men from camps, from roadsides, from bars, and from lonely cabins. She is almost always described as beautiful beyond reason, impossibly graceful, long dark hair, bright eyes, and skin shining in the moonlight. And then always too late, the men notice her feet. Hooves, split and black and cloven beneath the hem of her dress. Good one, Rich. In some stories, she tramples those who are cruel. And in some stories, she seduces predators before killing them. Hi, Tertia. And in some tales, she exists as vengeance itself. Punishment for violence against women, for lust, for arrogance, and for disrespect. But in the older versions, she's less moral and more primal. A predator wearing a human face because human men are foolish enough to follow beauty into darkness. Kinsey told me all of that on the drive from Tulsa toward the Eastern Hills, where the highways narrowed and the land rolled into endless folds of oak forest and red dirt roads. Goat man, he said I'd definitely like to lock horns with her. She had grown up in Oklahoma and invited me out to do some exploring. I had flown in for a long weekend to visit her, and the plan was simple. Stay at her family's old hunting cabin near the edge of tribal land, spend a few days hiking, film some footage for my channel, and hear local legends from people who actually grew up with them instead of the sanitized versions online. It was exactly the sort of trip I love. When I asked Kinsey whether she believed in the deer woman, she stared at the road a little too long before telling me that she wasn't sure what she believed, but believing had nothing to do with respecting something. The cabin was old, rough timber walls, tin roof, broad porch, which I love. It sat alone in a clearing surrounded by oak trees and blackjack pines, with the woods pressing so close that at night, the tree line became a solid black wall. There was shoddy cell service and no neighbors for miles. It was also pitch black. The perfect place for a spooky weekend adventure. The first night there, Kinsey pointed out a spot not far from the woods. It was native ceremonial ground that her grandfather had warned her never to disrespect. She said that local kids used to dare each other to sneak out and go there after dark. Most came back screaming before they even reached the trees. Every trail there had a story. Every creek crossing had some whispered warning attached to it. Everywhere around there seemed to have a reason that locals didn't linger there after sunset. The second night, after filming footage of the land all afternoon, we had hiked farther than we intended. So we drove into town for a quaint dinner. One main street, one gas station, one diner, and one blinking traffic light. By the time we left the diner, night had swallowed any remaining light, and the highway back to the cabin was dark and empty. No headlights, no houses, just miles of black roads slicing through forests and pasture. And then, the light of our headlights, we saw her. A woman, alone. After midnight, in the middle of nowhere. She wore a pale dress. She had long hair. And even in the headlights, there was something strange about the way she moved. Kinsey didn't even slow down, and every hair on the back of my neck stood up. Kinsey floored it right past the woman without even turning her head. Very unlike her. As we passed her, her head turned with us, too smoothly and too far, like an owl. I twisted to look through the rear window, and she was standing in the middle of the road now, watching us leave. And even from that distance now, I could see her legs bent backwards. Kinsey drove the rest of the way with white knuckles on the wheel. Later, back at the cabin, we joked about it in the shallow way people joke when something has them genuinely rattled. And we tried to rationalize what we saw. Someone with a physical impairment? Maybe it was a lost hiker, a drunk person, a crackhead. Maybe it was an optical illusion. It could have been, right? But neither of us believed any of those explanations. We locked the cabin and stayed inside. Around midnight, something began circling outside. At first, it was just footsteps. It paced around the cabin for nearly an hour, sometimes slow, sometimes suddenly sprinting around the perimeter in a manic thunder of hoofbeats. At one point, it stopped directly outside my window, and I could hear the breathing. I don't know why I am so curious, but I peeled back the curtain, and there she was, standing inches from the glass. She looked human from the waist up, beautiful in the way venomous things look beautiful. Smooth skin, hollow dark eyes, hair hanging in damp ropes around her face. But below the waist, no human legs. Jointed hind limbs like a deer standing upright, with black fur slick against muscle. With split hooves planted. She smiled at me, and I screamed. And then she slammed into the window so hard the pane cracked. Kinsey dragged me backward as she shrieked outside. It sounded like somewhere between a woman screaming, an elk bugling, and metal tearing. And then we heard the slow creaking of the porch wood bracing from the weight of something stepping onto the porch. And then came a scraping noise like hoofs clanking against porch boards. For nearly an hour, she circled the cabin, never knocking, never speaking, just pacing, waiting, trying to scare us out of the cabin. At some point, the pacing stopped and we sat on the couch in silence, barely breathing. Then came the sound of a heavy impact against the front door, hard enough to rattle the frame, and the entire cabin shook. And then nothing. Absolute silence. It stayed silent until dawn, when sunlight finally bled through the curtains, and we both could finally breathe again. We stepped outside and the porch was empty. But the outside of the door and the wooden porch boards were scarred with deep gouges. We both packed up all our stuff in under 15 minutes and we got the hell out of there. Neither of us spoke much on the drive back to Tulsa. I just kept replaying the night over and over in my mind. Halfway through the drive, Kinsey got a call from her uncle. He sounded panicked and asked where we had been. He said that neighboring property owners found a hunter, or what was left of one. His body had been found less than a mile from our cabin. Chest crushed inward, ribs shattered, face nearly unrecognizable. Like something heavy had stomped him to death. Authorities blamed a feral hog attack, but all the locals knew better. We never went back to that cabin, and Kinsey's family sold the property the following year. Later on, I had gone back to look at the footage I had filmed. And I had set down the camera on a rock while we were talking, and the lens had remained recording for nearly 6 unattended minutes. And I almost deleted it. Then movement in the background caught my eye. Between the trees behind us, far back in the brush, there she stood. She had been there the whole time, studying us, waiting until we were alone. And that's the tale of the Deer Woman of Oklahoma. Thank you, logo. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Devin, and this is Porch Lore. I'm here every single night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until about 1 in the morning. I do write and record all of these stories myself, and you can listen to them whenever you would like on my YT channel, as well as all of the podcast streaming sites. Just look for Porch Lore and you will find me. Thank you so much, Sherry. Thank you. And Rich, thank you so much for the popular mic. Thanks for the pearl chimes. Justin, thanks for the cozy cryptids. You guys are great. Julie, thanks for the shard of hope. Happy Monday, everybody. All right, I'm going to do one more poll before we do the new story because I think we have time. Oh, thank you, Archangel. I appreciate that so much. I'll be right back with the next poll. Happy Monday. Yes, Songbird, we're going to go over to Scream Queens live after this, after my live. All right, you guys. The next poll is ready, and we have the Snallygaster, the Playground, the Last American Vampire, Lubbock Lights, and the Fresno Nightcrawlers. You can vote in the top left-hand corner. You can vote up to 50 times, and you can vote for more than one story. Who's it going to be? Snallygaster, Playground, Last American Vampire, the Lubbock Lights, or the Fresno Nightcrawlers? You do, Buck? You live in Lubbock? Cool, welcome. Court, thanks for the follow. Welcome to the porch. Matt says he needs to put his shirt on if the pants win because he has a Fresno Nightcrawlers Porch Lore merch shirt. Hi, Venus. All right, you guys, the winner is the Lubbock Lights. So I will be right back with the Lubbock Lights. Grab a beanbag chair, grab a hammock, sit back and relax, and welcome to the porch. If you guys could do me a big favor and hit that share arrow in the bottom right-hand corner. There's a little yellow circle with two arrows chasing each other that says repost. And that puts my live in your friends' FYPs. Also, I highly recommend that everybody read the banners. There are two giant banners moving across the screen at all times. And they're not there for no reason. So, just a reminder, they're literally right in front of your face, moving. Thank you, Chelsea. I love that thing. It's so weird. I love it so much. There's nothing spicy about that, Rich. It's common sense. I don't think Chud's here yet, Goat Man. You should invite him. You should invite him. Tell him you want to be friends. Chud is someone's screen name, Brooke. Brooke said, I'm old. I don't know what chud means. Did you, Rich? You told someone to give it a goog? I love that. Oh, thanks, Bill. I had no idea. Yes, Goatman, and I have the actual photographs in the YT video version of this. I don't know, Goatman. Maybe you should listen to the story. Submitted for the approval of the Porch Pal Society. This is the tale of the Lubbock Lights. Thank you for the follow, Unicorn. Thank you for the follow, Danielle. Welcome to the porch. It was the summer of 1951, and the small city of Lubbock, Texas, was a quiet, unassuming place, nestled in the vast, flat expanse of the South Plains. The town was a patchwork of modest homes, dusty streets, and sprawling cotton fields where the hum of cicadas and the occasional rumble of a pickup truck were the only sounds. Lubbock was a place where everyone knew everyone, where life moved at a leisurely pace, and where the night sky stretched endlessly above a canvas of stars. But that summer, something extraordinary happened. Something that would forever change the lives of those who witnessed it and leave an indelible mark on the history of this unassuming Texas town. It was a phenomenon so strange that it would spark debates, investigations, and theories for decades to come. Now, to understand the Lubbock Lights, you must first understand the people who witnessed them. Perfect gift, right? Thanks, Denise. Lubbock was a town of hardworking, no-nonsense folks. Farmers, teachers, engineers, and students. They were people who valued facts over fantasy, who trusted their eyes and their instincts. Among them were 4 college friends, all studying at Texas Technological College, now known as Texas Tech University. There was Dr. W.I. Robinson, a geologist, Professor A.G. Berg, a chemical engineer, Dr. George Wilkins, a physicist, and Professor W.L. Ducker, an oil engineer. Now, these men were not the type to believe in flying saucers or little green men. They were scientists, grounded in logic and reason. And then there was Carl Hart Jr., an 18-year-old freshman at the College of Amateur Photography, with a curious mind and a keen eye for detail. And there were countless other residents of Lubbock, families sitting on their porches after dinner, farmers tending to their fields, children playing in the streets. All of them would soon find themselves staring up at the sky in awe and disbelief. Hi, Gina. It all began on the evening of August 25th, 1951. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The air was warm, carrying the faint scent of freshly cut hay and the distant hum of crickets. Dr. Robertson, Professor Oberg, Dr. Wilkins, and Professor Ducker were sitting in Dr. Robinson's backyard, enjoying a quiet evening of conversation. They talked about their work, their families, and the latest news, the Korean War, the growing tensions of the Cold War, and recent advancements in aviation technology. As the sky darkened, one of the men glanced up and froze. He pointed to the sky, and the others followed his gaze, and they saw it too. A formation of glowing lights moving silently across the sky. The lights were arranged in a perfect semicircle, each one a soft bluish-green hue, like the glow of a firefly. They moved with a precision and speed that defied explanation, gliding effortlessly across the sky before disappearing into the distance. The men were stunned. They had never seen anything like it. They quickly ruled out the possibility of airplanes or birds. The lights were too fast, too silent. Over the next few nights, the lights returned, always in the same formation, always moving with the same eerie grace. The men began to document their observations, taking notes on the time, direction, and the behavior of the lights. Skrilla. They even tried to calculate their speed and altitude, but the numbers didn't make sense. Whatever these lights were, they seemed to defy the laws of physics. Word of the sighting spread quickly through Lubbock. People gathered in their yards and on rooftops and in open fields, hoping to catch a glimpse of the mysterious lights. Among them was Carl Hart Jr., who had heard the rumors and decided to see for himself. And on the night of August 31st, 1951, Carl stood in his backyard, camera in hand, staring up at the sky. He didn't have to wait long. Just after 9, the lights appeared again. And this time, in a V formation. Carl's heart raced as he raised his camera and began snapping pictures. The lights were moving fast, but he managed to capture several clear shots. And when he developed the photos the next day, he was amazed at what he saw. The images showed a series of bright circular lights perfectly aligned and glowing against the dark sky. Carl knew he had captured something extraordinary. He immediately took the photos to the local newspaper, the Lubbock Avalanche Journal, where they caused a sensation. The images were published on the front page, and soon reporters from across the country were flocking to Lubbock, eager to hear the story of the Lubbock Lights. The sightings attracted the attention of the U.S. Air Force, which was already investigating reports of unidentified flying objects as part of Project Blue Book, the top-secret military program that studied UFOs from 1952 to 1969. Captain Edward J. Rappelt, the head of the project, traveled to Lubbock to interview the witnesses and examine Carl Hart's photographs. Rappelt was a seasoned investigator, a man who had seen his share of strange phenomenon. But even he was puzzled by the Lubbock Lights. He interviewed the 4 professors who described the lights in meticulous detail with notes. They told him about the semicircular formation, the bluish-green glow, and they were adamant that the lights were not airplanes, birds, or any known natural phenomenon. Rappelt also spoke with Carl Hart, who insisted that the photos were genuine and that he had not tampered with them in any way. And despite his best efforts, Rappelt was unable to explain the Lubbock Lights. Did you guys hear that thunder? Major storms coming. In the end, he concluded that the Lubbock Lights were in fact unexplained. To truly immerse yourself in the story of the Lubbock Lights, you must first understand the vibe of the times. The early 1950s were a period of great change and uncertainty. The world was still recovering from the devastation of World War II, and the Cold War was heating up. The threat of nuclear war loomed large, and people were both fascinated and terrified by the rapid advancements in technology. It was an era of flying saucers and science fiction, of the day the earth stood still and the war of the worlds. People were looking to the skies, wondering who or what might be out there. In Lubbock, the sighting sparked a mix of excitement and unease. Some people were thrilled by the idea of extraterrestrial visitors. Others were deeply unsettled. The local newspaper was flooded with letters and phone calls. Some from people claiming to have seen the lights themselves, others demanding answers. Thank you, oh so very ordinary. The town became a hub of activity, with reporters, investigators, and curious onlookers descending on the city. The Lubbock Lights remains one of the most compelling UFO sightings in history. And despite numerous investigations and theories, no one has been able to definitively explain what the witnesses saw that summer. Thank you, Sam in Houston. For the people of Lubbock, The lights were a source of wonder and mystery, a reminder that even in the most ordinary places, the extraordinary can happen. And that's the tale of the Lubbock Lights. And thank you guys for helping me with my gift gallery and my gift goals. Your generosity is amazing. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Archangelo, for helping me with my gift gallery. Thank you for the beautiful swan. Okay, give me 1 second, you guys. I have to check. My phone just got 4 weather alerts, and this storm out here sounds really crazy. So give me 1 second. I will check it. Haley, could you read the banner? Yeah, Mary, I think it's coming here now. Hi, Archangel Michael. We have 60-mile-an-hour winds and quarter-size hail coming. Nikki, I don't have a basement. Skrilla, that's a good one. Don't worry, Lonnie. They have lots of places to take shelter. I have like 50 years of thick-ass ivy covered by a whole tree line of bushes, and everybody lives in there, and they all huddle in there and hide, and they're very safe. I make sure that there's protective places for them to take shelter. I'm in Ohio. Yeah, they're good. And I have like 4 different places on my property that they could take, like, hang out. Yeah, kind of, Nikki. My bathroom probably. But do you guys hear the thunder? It's crazy right now. But it is time for the news story. So I will be right back with the news story of the week. It is very loud. It's like crazy loud. Thank you, guys. I'll be right back. Grab a beanbag chair, grab a hammock, sit back and relax, and welcome to the porch. And if you guys could do me a big favor and hit that share arrow in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little yellow circle with 2 arrows chasing each other that says repost. And that puts my live into your friends' FYPs. And it helps us grow this beautiful porch. Goat man, sweet dreams. Hi, protecting my peace. All right, guys, I'll be right back. Thanks for tapping and sharing. Happy Monday. Grab a beanbag, grab a hammock, sit back and relax. Welcome to the porch. Oh, okay, goat man. Sit back and relax. Thank you, Drexia. And this story is near and dear to my heart. This is my ancestry. This is my magic. This is my wheelhouse. This is a story about the Fae, also known as elementals. Also, the thing people fear the most in the magic world. For good reason. Oh my God, thank you so much, Nikki. Thank you so much for helping me with my gift gallery. I appreciate it so much. And Daisy, thank you. If you like this image, guess what? The YT video, there are little fairy twinkles all around the tree, and a fairy pops in and out of the screen throughout the whole story. So I highly recommend watching the YT version too, because I can't do that over here, but it does have some cute animation in this one. Hi, Blake's Pico. You're just in time for the new story that premiered earlier tonight. Yeah, there's a fairy that flies around, and Lady Rose loves it. Oh, thank you, Chedsy. Submitted for the approval of the Porch Pal Society. This is the tale of fairy trees. Thank you, Matt. Making it rain. There are some places in the world where people will move mountains to build a road. Thank you, Skrilla. Thank you, Daisy. And then there are places where people will move the road to avoid a single tree. By the way, y'all, it's not a coincidence that there's a raging elemental thunderstorm happening as soon as I start this story. They're like, she's finally fucking acknowledging us and her part of the magic world. And then there are places where people will move the road to avoid a single tree. Not because of engineering, and not because of convenience, but because of something older. Something whispered about 4 centuries. Something living between folklore and fear. The belief that some trees are not just trees. They are homes, doorways, places where the unseen world touches our own. For centuries across the forests and fields of Ireland, Scotland, England, and even parts of Appalachia, people have believed that some trees are not simply trees. They are something more. They are places where the human world touches something unseen. And they are known as fairy trees. And some of these trees are believed to be even more mysterious. And those are referred to as portal trees. Living doorways that connect our world to hidden realms beyond our own. Today, many people pass these trees without a second thought. They see twisted branches, ancient trunks, and strange shapes created by centuries of wind and weather. But for generations before us, those same trees were treated with reverence, respect, and sometimes even fear. Yes, Justin. Because according to the old folklore, these trees belonged to the beings that lived just beyond human sight. The stories of fairy trees began centuries ago, at a time when people lived much closer to the natural world than we do now. They believed that the world was filled with unseen forces. Rivers had spirits, mountains had personalities, and storms had moods. And certain places were sacred. And forests were not simply collections of trees. Josh, you should absolutely approach it. You should absolutely approach that tree. Give it a talk. Give it a hug. Say what's up. There were places where the boundary between the known and the unknown became thin. Across Ireland and Scotland, people spoke of a hidden realm that existed alongside our own. A mysterious world inhabited by beings often called the fair folk or the fae. But these were not the tiny, cheerful fairies of modern children's stories. The fae of ancient tradition are powerful elemental entities. The fair folk were called fair for a reason. They were viewed as the keepers of the natural balance of things, the primordial form of justice. And they became angered when humans disrespected the natural world. And among the places where these beings were believed to gather were certain unusual trees. Sometimes it would be hundreds of years old, with branches twisted into strange shapes. And people would wonder why. Why had this one tree survived when everything around it had changed? Yes, Skrilla, exactly. That's why she's my favorite. Why did storms not destroy it? Why did generations of people continue to leave it standing? The answer, according to folklore, was that the tree was protected. It was a home, a meeting place, a doorway, and it belonged to the fairies. Farmers would carefully plow around these trees rather than cut them down. Roads were sometimes redirected to avoid them. And some of these special trees developed an even stranger reputation, and they became known as portal trees. Yes, that's thunder. According to folklore, certain trees could act as doorways between the worlds. Hollow trees, twisted trees, trees with what appeared to have a doorway. And stories developed about people who entered these strange openings and experienced impossible things. Stories of people who disappeared for what seemed like only a minute, only to discover that hours, days, or even years had passed. The idea of lost time is one of the most common themes in fairy folklore. The belief was that the fairy realm did not follow the same rules as our world, and that time behaves differently there. And yes, Leslie, they absolutely are. But perhaps one of the most fascinating traditions surrounding portal trees was their connection to healing. Hello, Maleficent. Welcome. Maleficent just came into the YT. It's almost like she knew what I was talking about. For centuries, people across parts of Britain, Europe, and Appalachia believed that certain trees had the power to remove illness. One old practice involved passing a sick child through an opening or split in the tree. Thank you, Heather. The belief was that the sickness would be left behind inside the tree while the child would emerge healed. The tree became a bridge between sickness and health, between the old ways and the new. And of all the warnings surrounding fairy trees, one became the most well-known. Never cut one down. Respect the trees. Respect the land. Respect the mysteries that you do not understand. But fairy trees are not just a tradition from the distant past. They still exist today. Travel through parts of Ireland, Scotland, and Appalachia, and you will find trees decorated with ribbons, coins, flowers, and small offerings. People still visit them. Some leave wishes, some leave gifts. Some simply stand beneath their branches and appreciate the history vibrating around them. A reminder that the world is older and stranger than we often remember or even know. When you first hear about fairy trees, it's easy to assume they are just stories people tell children. Tiny creatures hiding beneath roots in magical forests. Old legends from a world that no longer exists. But the more you research them, the more you realize something strange. People don't just tell stories about these trees. They change their lives because of them. Across Ireland and parts of Scotland, certain lone hawthorn trees became surrounded by stories of the fairy folk. And not the cute, harmless creatures from children's fairy tales. The older legends described something more complicated. The fairies were powerful, capable of blessing a person or ruining their life. They were not creatures you invited in. They were beings that you respected. And above all else, you did not disturb their homes. And that belief became so deeply rooted that farmers avoided cutting down certain trees, even when it stood in the middle of valuable farmland. They still, today, just plow around them. They've been left untouched for generations because removing one is believed to invite disaster. A sick child, a failed harvest, a streak of terrible luck. But what fascinates me the most wasn't just the older stories. It was what happened when our modern world collided with them. Because even today, there are roads built around these special trees. That's right. Construction projects have been rerouted, machines have been stopped, and plans have been redesigned. All because someone looked at a single tree and decided, nah, we're not cutting that one down. Perhaps the mystery of fairy trees was never only about whether supernatural beings truly live among their branches. Perhaps the deeper mystery is why humans across so many cultures have always looked at certain trees and felt that they were special. Maybe it's because an ancient tree is already something magical. It can stand for hundreds of years. It can survive storms that destroy everything around it. It can grow from a tiny seed into something that outlives countless generations. It witnesses births, deaths, war, celebrations, and forgotten moments in history. A tree can remember a world that no human alive today has ever seen. And trees are in fact vital to the survival of the human race. And maybe that's why in ancient times they were revered. And maybe that's why people still today believe that some trees are doorways. Because standing beneath the branches of an ancient tree and feeling the vibration of the earth and the breeze on your skin, it's easy to imagine that there is more to this world than what we can see with our eyes. That somewhere beyond the roots and leaves, hidden just beyond the edge of human understanding, there may still be places where the old stories are waiting. Places where the boundary between worlds grows thin. Reminders that the world still holds mysteries that we have yet to uncover. And perhaps, somewhere deep in the woods near you, there are trees that are not just trees. And that's the tale of the fairy trees. I chose this topic, y'all, and this is from my wheelhouse. This is my ancestry and my world. And they sent a giant ass storm to give me my own sound effects. They condone the story. Yay. Thank you, Justin. Okay, Rochelle. Yeah, Jade missed the whole thing. Both times. Boo. Jade's too cool for us now. She doesn't even come around. Yes, Rochelle, I'll make it tonight or tomorrow. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Devin, and this is Porch Lore. and I tell spooky bedtime stories to help you relax your nervous system and fall asleep. I do write and record all of these stories myself, and you can listen to them whenever you would like on my YT channel, as well as all of the podcast streaming sites. Thank you, Oh So Very Ordinary. Thank you, Maleficent. Maleficent said, "Well done, my pet." Do you, Sherry? Also, fun fact. There's a magical stump in Crater Lake that Skrilla was telling me about. And can you guys imagine what tree it is? What kind of tree it is? It's a hawthorn tree. And it just floats there by itself for over 100 years vertically. And he didn't know the topic of the story this week, and he sent me that randomly, and I was like, of course it's a hawthorn tree. And I was like, yep, the man of the lake, exactly. And that's a hawthorn stump. And I was like, of course it is. And then I was like, please remember that it's a hawthorn stump tomorrow when you hear my new story. Because they're magical trees, y'all. Why are you face palming? Was I not supposed to share the stump story? Oh, Sherry, you have a sign by your hawthorn that says, "Don't piss off the fairies." I love that. I love that. You know what? Me too, Anna. They're my favorite trees. They're my favorite trees. Willow are my favorite trees, by the way. Not hawthorns. Willows are actually my favorite trees. I'm obsessed with willow trees. Oh, good night, Mary. Sweet dreams. Love you. Feel better. All right, you guys, I'm just setting up the next poll. Yep, it's always been the willow for me too, Shannon. It's always been the willow for me. I actually want to be turned into a willow when I am buried. You can actually be turned into a tree instead of like having a random grave taking up earth space. Because you know that cemeteries are part of the reason they keep cutting down forests is because that's just land for corpses that are gone. And it's wasted land. I'm sorry. It is. I don't believe in that stuff. We go back into the earth. And we should all become trees. And you can do that if you want. Instead of paying for a fucking plot, you can become a tree. Just throwing that out there in case anybody's interested, because that's the way I plan to go. Not sit in some $10,000 box that my family had to pay for in a $10,000 stone and the rent for the lot and it's just fucking crazy. Like, make me a beautiful willow tree right near water that provides shade for people for fucking 200 years. Yes, please. I would much prefer that. So yeah, give it a goog. You can actually be turned into a tree. And that's my dream. Obviously not anytime soon, but when the time comes, let it be on record that I want to be turned into a tree. A willow, please. Yep. Be right back with the poll. A fruit tree too. Could be a fruit tree. Provide people sustenance, but I'd rather be a willow. And how much cooler would it be to go talk to your family member who's a tree now? Like, they provide spaces for nests, bird families, squirrels, bees, everything. How cool would it be to be like, instead of visiting a random grave, you just visit your family member who's a tree? That's like and trees are alive. They provide shelter, they provide shade. Like, you could go sit in the shade of your family member every day and talk to them. You know what I mean? I just think that, right? Very cool. I think so too. So I just thought I would, at the end of my tree story, share to you guys that instead of cutting them down to make more development, because half of the development in cities is cemeteries, we should all just become trees and change it. And by the next generation, there'll just be a shit ton of trees and like no cemeteries. And I know that goes against some people's religious beliefs, but I'm not a religious person. So sorry, but I think it'd be lovely. And I feel like Jesus would totally be down. I feel like he'd be like, that's fucking dope. All right, you guys, the next poll is ready. We have the Bell Witch, the Playground, the Last American Vampire, the Salem Time Slip, and the Frightful Fireworks. Exactly, Mustang Stally, and the water that's required to keep the grass and the everything is just, it's just insane. It's just really yeah. Oh, is that what it's called? Oh, so very ordinary? It's called a green burial. You said a mushroom casket. An apple or an orange tree would be fine too, but I'd rather be a willow. Really, Nikki? That's amazing. I didn't know that. I never heard that before. That's cool. Also, guys, Scream Queen, could you comment again? We're going to raid Scream Queens live after this. All right, guys, you can vote in the top left-hand corner. We have the Bell Witch, the Playground, the Last American Vampire, the Salem Time Slip, and the Frightful Fireworks. And also very ordinary would like a Salem Time Slip vote. Also, here is Scream Queen. We will be raiding his live after mine, and he's lovely. We have so much fun over there. Star, why would I want that? Star, why would I want that? Right, Matt? But I hate to break it to you, but all of the fruit trees and everything that we eat now, there's thousands of years of human occupation and creatures that decomposed in that soil to make it nutrient rich to grow fruit trees. So your fruit trees are already nutrient by all of the dead things in the soil, not to mention when people use manure. Literally nutriented like by shit. So it all goes back to the earth. Oh, from your mom. Yes, Matt. That would be, yeah, I could see that. I think it'd be cool. Because then every day you'd be like, this apple's my mom. She gave me this apple. You know what I mean? But some people, it's not for some people. That's the thing, is everybody can, it's their own thing. But that's my plan. And my pee. Oh yeah, that's actually kind of true. Yeah, that's actually kind of true. Thanks, Freedom. You think so, Matt? Yeah. Was she cremated or buried, if you don't mind me asking? Okay, Fairy Witch. Oh, yeah. That makes sense. Oh, so very early. The Prince? Oh, the Prince of Jordan? I don't think he'd mind. He had cameras everywhere. You buried her. Okay. I was just wondering because cremation, you could still turn her into a tree. But I wonder if where you buried her would let you. Probably not. You should just go plant some apple seeds in her grave. Like, how'd that tree get there? I guess we're just going to have to keep it and get the apples from it. You could just try, you know? How are they going to know? How are they going to stop you? Oh, that's so cool, Matt. That's cool. I love that. Oh, really, Mackenzie? Yeah. You can still use them. All right, guys, and the winner is the Bell Witch. I will be right back with Empusa. We're on an elemental kick tonight. Grab a beanbag chair, grab a hammock, sit back and relax, and welcome to the porch. Thank you, Jeff. Hi, Peter. Those muffins sound delicious. I'm glad, Mackenzie. Yeah, more options. Oh, thanks, Snooty. It's not new. It's just for certain stories. Submitted for the approval of the Porch Pal Society. This is the tale of the Bell Witch and justice for Impusa. Thanks, Snooty. My friend Kim and I became friends on TikTok first. We just clicked immediately, like we were sisters in another life. She just felt like home to me, and our connection is truly a deep bond that I can't really explain. We had decided to save up money for a paranormal adventure together with a whole crew of the spooky bookies. We were rolling deep. I'm talking Brittany, Elena, Ayana, Angela, Yaya, April, Alicia. For our first paranormal adventure, we decided to go to Robertson County, Tennessee, to research the folklore and poke around. Because the Bell Witch story had always bothered me. Yep, that's you, Venus. Not frightened me, bothered me. The way it was told, the way it was framed, the way the narrative blamed the neighbor, a strong-willed woman who had the nerve to stand up for herself against John Bell, and then was deemed a witch. The way the story always centered the Bell family as the victims. Evil witch, demonic haunting, cursed land. The same tired language repeated for 2 centuries, without anyone stopping to ask who actually benefited from that version of events. As if the Bell family, who gained their wealth off the work of enslaved people, were somehow innocent. Without ever stopping to think how their way of life itself was in fact the unnatural evil energy that saturated that land. What happened to the Bell family was most likely the repercussions of their own inhumanity, cruelty, and complacency. The Bell Witch Cave sits like a wound in the Tennessee countryside. It isn't dramatic at first glance. No towering cliffs or theatrical entrance. Just a low opening near the Red River, half hidden by brush and limestone. People come there expecting fear. They bring EMF meters and night vision cameras and preconceived conclusions. And they desperately try to find connections to the witch. They want something to jump out at them, something to justify the word evil. But we came because of the land itself. The Bell Plantation once stood not far from that cave, and that detail is usually mentioned only in passing. John Bell, wealthy farmer, early Tennessee settler, respected man. That's how the story begins in textbooks and tour pamphlets. But what it rarely expands on is what that wealth was built on. Enslaved labor. African women and men whose lives were owned, controlled, brutalized, and erased. and their suffering is somehow treated like a historical static background noise to the real story of a haunted white family. But the land remembers differently than the people who write the history books do. I had begun researching older accounts, not the polished versions meant for tourists, but fragments buried in court records, local oral histories, and diary entries, and overlooked scholarly articles. There were mentions of women who disappeared, of punishments administered out of sight, of screams that carried across the fields at night, and of a cave. The enslaved avoided until they didn't have a choice anymore. Because the Bell Cave wasn't where the haunting began. It was where the resistance did. When we stepped inside the cave, the temperature dropped in a sharp physical way that almost felt like we'd crossed into a different realm entirely. Kim laughed and said, "Hold on, y'all, here we go." We were all excited and nervous because this was our first paranormal outing together as a group. The walls were damp, the stones smoothed by centuries of water. We could feel electricity in the air, a vibration, a tingling feeling like we were standing somewhere where something important had happened. And I just kept thinking about the women, African women, brought here in chains, stripped of language, kinship, freedom, yet still carrying cosmologies older than this entire country. Women who viewed the land as alive, as something you spoke to rather than conquered. Women who knew protection magic, not as superstition, but as survival. Hoodoo, root work, conjure, these weren't aesthetic practices. They were technologies of endurance. Now, John Bell wasn't just cruel. He was methodical. His punishments were designed to break the spirit as much as the body. Thank you, Songbird. Women were targeted not only for labor, but for humiliation, violence, and control. Now, the Bell Witch legend talks about invisible slaps and disembodied voices tormenting the family. But it never talks about the very real hands that regularly struck enslaved women, the very real screams that went unanswered, and the very real blood that soaked into this soil long before anything supernatural was ever reported. Desperation sharpens clarity. And those women didn't turn to the cave because they were curious. They turned to it because they had nowhere else to go. The cave was mysterious and revered even then, known to the local indigenous people as a place where the veil between the worlds thinned. A place where the elements spoke louder than men. Earth, water, darkness, womb, and grave in the same breath. Those enslaved women didn't summon an evil spirit or a demon. They called on a protector. Mpusa. Mpusa is not a witch in the fairy tale sense. She is an ancient elemental. She is associated with crossroads, caves, night travel, seduction, and punishment. She served Hecate, the ancient goddess of witchcraft, crossroads, and the underworld. And Pusa always appears as a beautiful woman, graceful, hypnotic to look at. Ancient writers compared her to the spirits that fed on human vitality, which is why modern historians describe Pusa as the first form of succubus or vampire. But she didn't drink blood. She drained people, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. She was seen as a force of punishment against arrogance, corruption, and human excess, like a form of dark vigilante justice that appeared when people crossed lines they weren't supposed to cross. Long before Europeans ever set foot on this land, entities like Pusa have existed across cultures all over the world under different names. Not demons, not angels. Corrective forces. Balancers, justice, karma. What those women did in that cave wasn't reckless, it was precise. They worked with what they had: roots, water, ancestors' blood, and breath. They bound their suffering into the land itself, not to curse blindly, but to anchor a guardian. They didn't ask for mercy. They asked for protection. And protection doesn't always look gentle, especially to those who are the oppressors and the abusers. As we moved deeper into the cave, the air changed in a way that made every single one of us stop walking. Yaya and I locked eyes as we both sensed something at the same time. The passage ahead narrowed into a low chamber where black mineral streaks ran down the limestone walls like old water damage. My inadequate flashlight beam trembled across them. And for a split second, I thought I saw movement. Nobody spoke. Even Kim and Brittany, who usually joke when they get nervous, were completely silent. The vibration in the cave floor had deepened into something rhythmic, not footsteps and not machinery. Something older. And then Angela asked if anyone smelled that. It smelled like wet soil and river water, and something burning. Not smoke exactly, more like extinguished candles. Kim, who was behind me, suddenly stopped and told us all to back it the fuck up, Terry. I turned to ask what was wrong, and she pointed past me toward the wall. Now Kim has a special gift, and she can see spirits and energy that most people can't see. So whenever she tells us she sees something, we all pay attention. At first, I thought it was just another creepy opening in the rock, but then I realized the darkness was moving. The shadows along the walls had begun folding together in fluid motions. A shape was emerging that looked like a woman. A silhouette formed from darkness, moisture, and flickering reflections off the cave walls. Parts of her seemed ancient and beautiful. Long limbs, hair moving like submerged roots, while other parts refused to stay still long enough for my brain to understand them. Thank you, AMG, that's my favorite part. I remember seeing eyes, reflective, like light shining across deep river water at night. Oh, you understand now? Yeah. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run. But surprisingly, none of us moved. We were all frozen. Ayana looked like she was about to cry, and Alicia looked like she was scoping for places to exit. And Pusa stood at the far edge of the chamber watching us. The cave had gone silent and I could hear the tiny crackling buzz inside my inadequate flashlight battery. Then, all at once, the temperature dropped. And suddenly, images started flooding my mind, so fast they almost knocked me on my feet. Images of women kneeling in this exact chamber, hands pressed into mud, blood mixed with river water. Images of a girl no older than 15, hiding behind the others while someone above ground screamed. Not random visions, memories imprinted into this land. The cave wasn't showing us horror for the sake of horror. It was forcing us to witness. Then Empusa moved closer, and the fear became almost unbearable, and not because she wanted to hurt us, but because no human nervous system is built to experience something like this. And then I understood something that didn't feel like my own thought. It was that the land remembers what people bury. That was her message. Not revenge, not punishment, but remembrance. The cave itself was acting like an archive, and Empusa was the keeper. The story had survived, distorted because distortion protects systems of power. If the entity was framed as evil, nobody would ask why she came. Nobody would ask who begged for her protection in the first place. Empusa lifted one arm slowly toward the cave wall beside her. And for one impossible second, the mineral stains across the limestone looked like overlapping handprints. Dozens of them. Small hands, large hands pressed into the stone. And then my inadequate flashlight flickered, and they were gone. April gasped sharply behind me because at that exact same moment, every one of our flashlights in the chamber went out. I heard Angela's nervous giggle in the back of the group, and then Brittany whispered, "I know you motherfucking lying." Alicia gestured to Brittany to shush, and Ayana was trying to keep everyone calm and quiet. And then we were in complete darkness. But the dark didn't terrify me. What was terrifying to me was the realization that suffering that profound had actually happened here. Real women, real terror, real desperation, powerful enough to stain a landscape for centuries. Then our flashlights suddenly lit back up and the chamber was empty. And Empusa was gone. All that was left was some dripping water and the smell of raw earth. As we moved deeper into the cave, images came rushing into my mind. Women kneeling on cold stone, bruised wrist, torn dresses. I felt their fear, yes, but stronger than that, I felt their resolve. A moment where survival shifted into defiance. Empusa answered because she was meant to. And what followed on the Bell Plantation is well documented in the parts that like to sensationalize. Disembodied voices, physical attacks, psychological torment. John Bell growing weaker, sicker, unraveling. His once brutal authority collapsing under something he could not whip, sell, or silence. The legend calls it a curse. And that word does a lot of work for people who don't want to say justice. John Bell died under circumstances so strange they terrified his peers. The Bell family suffered losses, madness, humiliation. Their power eroded, and their name became synonymous not with wealth, but with a haunting. Their land rejected them. And the enslaved women? Their names were not preserved, but their work was. The Bell Witch was never attacking randomly. The violence had direction and purpose. It wasn't chaos. It was consequence. And the land is not cursed. It is protected. And people who come there seeking thrills often leave unsettled, shaken, or sometimes injured. They report scratches, nausea, disorientation, and they call it malevolent. But protection feels hostile to those who mean harm or are not pure of heart, even unconsciously. Especially to those who romanticize cruelty under the banner of history. Reframing the Bell Witch as evil allowed people to mourn John Bell without digging into the man he really was. It allows the country to turn enslaved women into footnotes instead of architects of their own resistance. It allows violence to remain abstract rather than personal. But Mpusa does not allow that abstraction. She anchors memory in place. She ensures that suffering is not erased just because time passes. That's right, AMG. She makes sure the land itself refuses sympathy for abusers. As we turned back toward the cave entrance, the pressure eased. Because we had finally been understood, a quiet acknowledgement that we hadn't come to provoke, we had come to listen. And Mpusa understood that. The Bell Witch Cave doesn't need an exorcism. It needs the truth. What happened there wasn't a haunting born of evil. It was a reckoning, born of necessity. Enslaved African women denied every earthly protection, reached for something older than the system that oppressed them. And it worked. Mpusa remains not a monster, but a sentinel. And the land remains hostile, not to all the living, but to those who are not pure of heart. And the story only feels like a curse if you believe John Bell deserved mercy more than the women he brutalized deserved justice. Because some protections never expire. And that's the tale of the Bell Witch and justice for Mpusa. Thank you, Gambit. Thank you, Lindsay. Thanks, Sherry. I appreciate that. I'm very proud of that story, actually. It's one of my favorite ones I've ever written. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Devin, and this is Porch Lore, and I tell spooky bedtime stories to help you relax your nervous system and fall asleep. And I am here every single night from 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until about 1 in the morning. Thank you, Justin. Thanks, Thomas. If you guys could do me a big favor, one more time, hit that share arrow in the bottom right-hand corner. There is a little yellow circle with 2 arrows chasing each other that says repost. And that puts my live into your friends' FYPs and helps us grow our beautiful porch. Also, sharing to your stories and sharing with your friends helps too. Also, thank you to those of you who have been helping me with my gift gallery and my gift goals tonight. Your generosity is really appreciated. And I will be right back with the tale of the night shift at Sycamore Diner. Happy Monday! Matt's clocking in for the night shift and Justin's firing up the grill. Submitted for the approval of the Porch Pal Society. This is the tale of the night shift at Sycamore Diner. I'm not usually the kind of person who pulls over on back roads at night. Not unless I absolutely have to. But that night, something about the storm, the long drive, and that growling pit in my stomach convinced me otherwise. I was hungry. It was late October, and I was headed back to campus after a weekend visit with my friends in North Carolina. I had a midterm on Monday, and my plan had been to drive straight through. 5 hours, no stops. But then came the rain. One of those cold, slanted, whispery rains that creeps into your bones and makes the windshield wipers sound like a heartbeat. I had taken the wrong exit trying to bypass traffic, and I ended up on a 2-lane back road, surrounded by nothing but pine trees and power lines. And that's when I saw the neon sign. SYCAMRE Diner. The O in Sycamore was flickering like it hadn't worked right in years, but the rest was lit up in a cherry red neon. A tiny beacon in the middle of nowhere. Thank you, Tam Bam. Thank you, Rochelle. Thanks, Mackenzie. I figured I'd grab a quick bite, maybe some coffee, check my map, and get back on the highway. But I should have just kept driving. I should have known something was off the second I stepped inside. The bell over the door jingled, but not like a normal bell. It made this sharp metallic ping that echoed longer than it should have. The air inside was warm, almost too warm, and it smelled like grilled onions and pancake syrup. The place looked like it had been yanked straight from 1957. Checkerboard floor, red vinyl booths, a long counter with spinning stools, even a jukebox in the corner that looked like it hadn't worked in decades. And the people, they all stopped and looked at me the second I walked in. Not in a rude way, just quiet, like they weren't expecting me. Like I'd walked into the middle of a sentence that no one wanted to finish. A waitress, tall, with a beehive hairdo and a light blue uniform, smiled and waved me over. "You get caught in the rain, sweetheart," she said, handing me a laminated menu. I nodded, still trying to shake off that weird feeling. Yeah, the highway's a mess. She chuckled and patted my shoulder. "Well, you're safe here. Sycamore's always open for travelers." I sat down at a corner booth, and the vinyl creaked. And I remember the jukebox shifted songs by itself and started playing some slow doo-wop ballad that I didn't recognize. I looked around and everyone looked normal, sort of. There was a trucker with a thick gray beard, drinking coffee at the counter. A young couple whispering to each other in a booth by the jukebox. And an older woman stirring tea, like she was lost in thought. But they all had the same look in their eyes, like they were there, but also somewhere else. Like they were watching me out of the corner of their eyes even when they were looking down. The waitress came back with coffee. Strong, hot, and surprisingly good. And I ordered a grilled cheese with fries. Simple, safe. She wrote it down with one of those clicky pens and said, "Don't worry, it's on the house tonight." And that was my second red flag. No diner just gives food away. While I waited, I took out my phone to check the map. No signal, and I mean nothing. No bars, no Wi-Fi, not even GPS. Just a blank screen with a spinning wheel. I glanced out the foggy window and the storm was still going. But now the wind had picked up. I could see the power lines swaying like jump ropes in the dark. But the diner stayed perfectly lit. Not even a flicker. The food came fast, too fast, like under 5 minutes. But it looked amazing. Golden bread, gooey cheese, crispy fries, with a little middle cup of ketchup on the side. Thank you, Tam. I took a bite. Delicious. I mean, I've eaten at a lot of diners, greasy spoons, college joints, and roadside shacks, but this was hands down the best grilled cheese I've ever had. The fries were perfect and the coffee never ran out. Every time I took a sip, it was somehow full again. I was halfway through the sandwich when the trucker got up to leave. He walked right past my table, nodded once, and whispered, "Don't stay past midnight." That's all he said. What? But he was already out the door. The waitress gave me a tight smile and walked over, collecting his empty mug. Old Earl, he's always saying weird stuff. Just ignore him. But I couldn't. Something about his voice stuck with me. Something about the way he looked at me. Not like I was a customer, but like I was in danger. I checked the clock over the register. 11:42. I figured I had just enough time to finish my fries, grab the check, and head out. I still had at least 3 hours left on the road. But when I stood up, the lights flickered. Just once, and then again. And then everything in the diner stopped moving. The couple by the jukebox froze mid-sentence. The woman with the tea stopped stirring, her spoon hanging in midair. The waitress, her hand reached out for a mug, just stopped. Like someone hit pause on the entire scene. I took a step back. The jukebox buzzed, glitched, and restarted a new track. I could still move, but no one else could. And then I heard it. Not music, not a storm. A voice. Not coming from anyone I could see. Just a whisper that seemed to echo from the walls themselves. I backed toward the door. Sherry. Sherry, you're so funny for that. I backed toward the door, my heart hammering in my chest, and I turned the knob. Locked. Of course it was locked. I tried the windows, but they were sealed shut. I started banging on the glass and shouting, but no one was outside. Just the wind and the rain, and that flickering red sign. SYCAMRE. I turned back toward the dining room, and everyone was gone. Not frozen anymore, just gone. The booths were empty. No plates, no crumbs, no mugs. No sign that anyone had ever even been there, except for my plate. Still warm and still half-eaten. And then I saw the waitress. She was standing by the kitchen doors, her silhouette backlit by flickering fluorescent light. Her face was wrong. The same smile, but her eyes were empty, black and endless, like someone had painted over them. "You shouldn't be here, honey," she said in that same cheerful voice. "Not yet." I stumbled back, knocking over a chair as she took one slow step toward me. The others, they were waiting, but you just wandered in. She raised a hand and the walls began to shimmer. Literally shimmer, like heat waves on asphalt. The checkered floor rippled and the red booths started to fade, becoming outlines and then shadows and then nothing. And then I saw it, underneath the illusion. It was charred wood, cracked tile, broken beams, and black soot, like the diner had burned down long ago. I ran. I don't even remember how I got out. 1 second I was inside, and the next I was on the side of the road, soaked to the bone and gasping for air. My car was still there, pulled up with the ceiling missing, parked on gravel that didn't even look like a lot anymore. Just weeds and puddles. Thanks, Sherry. No neon sign, no glowing windows, just nothing. I drove back to campus that night in silence. No 2 Chainz, no Porch Lore podcast. I kept glancing in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see that red neon flicker back to life. I didn't tell anyone, not for weeks. Not until I finally looked up Sycamore Diner on a local history site. And I found it. It burned to the ground in 1972. A gas leak. The whole place went up at midnight and everyone inside was killed. 5 patrons, a waitress, and a cook. The photo in the article? The same checkerboard floor. The same red booths. The same neon sign. SYCAMORE. And in the corner of the photo, that same waitress, smiling. I never took that back road again. I don't even drive at night anymore if I can help it. And every time I see a neon diner sign, something in me flinches just a little, because I know I was there. And I know I wasn't supposed to be. But the part that keeps me up sometimes, the part that really makes my stomach turn, that was the best damn grilled cheese I've ever had. And I didn't even pay for it. And that's the tale of the night shift at Sycamore Diner. Thank you for spending your evening with me, Porch Pals. I love you guys very much. And I will see you guys again tomorrow. Same time, same place, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to go over and raid Scream Queen. And do I have his screen name? No, I don't. So I pinned it 3 times. Hope you guys caught it. Because I don't know how to find it. I can't leave my live to go look for it. So we're going to go raid Scream Queen. And we'll see you guys over there. He plays. Thank you, Sherry. You're the best. Sherry just did it. It's right here. Type in that screen name if you want to join us for the raid. He plays vintage radio shows. Sometimes he writes his own stories and pops those in too, but he mostly plays vintage radio and it's very relaxing. So have a great night, Porch Pals. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And if you can't fall asleep, head on over to my YT channel and you will be out by like the 2nd story. And don't forget, stay spooky. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Sweet dreams.